what we've found is a lot of AV integration work would tend to be a subcontractor of the GC. And by that point, even when we're introduced to a project, it's too late to influence the design.
Right, absolutely.
Right? And we're not collaborating and sort of partnering with delivering on what the client wants. And I think that's one of the things that we've seen has really changed is that level of collaboration.
Yeah, I think there's a whole new and different way of working, and happily it's been sort of evolving and happening over the last several years.
Right.
But sort of gone are the days of, the designer or architect is in one camp, and then the builder's in another camp and sort of follows up on, building those plans. And same thing goes with the integration of smart house technologies. I mean, it's so much more effective. It's so much more productive. I think, of course, from the homeowner's experience, it produces a so much better result when all those teams can really be a single team in terms of that early collaboration in the process, and then being able to put all of those pieces together in a way that's really beautiful, really intentional, and really seamless.
Yeah, and that level of seamless integration only happens when the design team and us are at the table at the earliest stages, right? And I think that is very different for the industry. I mean, in a way, a lot of the agreements are set up in a certain way. Even the fact that, I think a lot of GCs expect that the sort of AV integration is going to be under their scope. They're going to make markup on it and all this kind of stuff. I think there's a lot within the business model that has to shift a little bit, right?
Absolutely.
In order for this to work. And I think, the more that we sit down, right?
Yeah.
The more that we can sit down at the table with designers, with architects, with even builders. And we know some great builders together, of course, that do some amazing work. But I think they're also sort of realizing that a lot of these decisions need to be made more upstream than they are now. And that means a shift of a business model, but I think the smart ones are really saying, okay, well, we're going to bring together a very collaborative design team that involves the AV folks, the lighting control side of it, lighting design, interior design, and architecture very early in the process.
Yeah, I can't really imagine doing it any other way.
Right.
To be perfectly honest. And in fact, just the other day, to your point, we had a situation where, we were going over the lighting plan and going over the overall scope and estimate with the builder that we have in place for this project. And, what was so helpful is to be able to ask you guys to go over the quote with the builder, mm-hmm. and both parties look at the different pieces and say, okay, is there any duplication of efforts here?
Right.
From the wiring labor costs, from anything that you see that hits your radar that might be an overlap of some kind. And of course, they were easily able to take a look at that documentation and say, nope, it's all perfectly laid out, and
right.
There's no duplication. We've got our process and we've got our plan in place, and that aligns with everything that the contractor has within his scope,
right.
because he's seen the TSP plan and,
right.
and what's involved and the integration and understands it completely. So again, from the client's perspective, from the homeowner's perspective, what a beautiful thing.
Right.
That they can then have the trust that, okay, all of these different realms, all these different areas have been looked at very carefully because there's a team here working on it.
Right.
Yeah.
No, that's great. And I'm glad that certainly from your perspective as well as ours, that early collaboration really makes a difference. What I've seen, I think, is probably when you look at a team like that that's working upstream and you look at the cost of all those people starting to come together early, there is more, and I think we look at it on line items as project management or sort of like team meetings and all that stuff. And, I think there's certainly a cost that the client sort of has to pay for that if you look at kind of the aggregate number of hours, but also like the delivery of the product, right? And we work in commercial sort of projects, which are much bigger in scale. So you make a mistake, it's like $1 million kind of stuff, right?
You really don't want to do that.
Yeah, and luckily we're not kind of on that side of things, but you can see how the dollars matter so much. But I think I have seen that even when the dollars are so big and they know that these meetings of collaborations, of integration of these design teams is going to cost a lot of money up front. They know as well that the mistakes made further down the line where people are pointing fingers at each other on site, that the wrong things are in the wrong place, or like you're saying, two people did the exact same scope that didn't
Right.
need to be done.
Right.
Those are much more costly. And
Yeah.
so that's kind of our education to the clients as well, is to say, well, look, our project management fees are substantially higher than what our competitors are, but that's because we're really trying to get ahead of these issues, which will cost money.
Right.
And I don't know if you've seen that
Yeah.
at all in projects.
Absolutely. And in fact, I spend, a lot of time with that sort of, for lack of a better word, education with our homeowners and clients. And, I think in the end, they really appreciate that. And
Right.
they do really understand the value of that kind of process, and understanding that, a price might, really include that, so that there aren't surprises down the road, which
Right.
will ultimately be so much more costly.